No position in sports carries more responsibility than the NFL quarterback. They dictate the success or failure of every snap in a game, while serving as the emotional backbone of their team and shaping a franchise's culture in the process. With such an immense burden, it's no surprise that projecting which college prospects will thrive or crumble at the next level is one of the great challenges in professional scouting. Further complicating this evaluation is the evolution of the position. Beginning in the 2010s, rule changes have led to more spread out offenses and a surge in offensive production. And as a result, quarterbacks have adjusted to the additional space, becoming more mobile to extend plays with their legs and directly contribute to the running game in ways that were once considered unconventional. Given the difficulty of finding a franchise quarterback, many teams enter each offseason in a state of flux, searching for their North Star to guide their franchise back to prominence. Each year, the NFL draft offers a glimmer of hope to land a generational talent. All it takes for the Chiefs to transform from a middle-tier franchise into the next NFL dynasty is drafting Patrick Mahomes, or the Commanders to go from league laughingstock to one of its most revitalized teams by drafting Jayden Daniels. But for every Mahomes and Daniels, there's a Josh Rosen or Johnny Manziel, who carried promise entering the league, but ultimately extended the misery of their franchises. So how can we spot the difference between the saviors and the destroyers? There's no perfect formula. If there were, teams wouldn't invest in scouting departments with hundreds and hundreds of people. But rather than attempt to replicate what a front office does to predict future success, I'll focus on what's most accessible to the regular fan, the physical and athletic traits that are measured during the pre-draft process. To capture the modern evolution of the position, I'll use the 2010 NFL Draft as the starting point for quarterbacks that I'll be evaluating. This was the year that dual-threat quarterback Tim Tebow was taken in the first round, signaling a shift in how teams were evaluating the position. That shift was further cemented the following year with Cam Newton's selection as the number 1 overall pick. Additionally, to avoid small sample outliers, I'll focus only on quarterbacks who have started at least 5 NFL games in their careers. So with those factors in mind, let's dive into over a decade of pre-draft data to uncover the attributes that define a successful modern quarterback. Throughout history, the prototypical NFL quarterback was a statuesque 6'4" or 6'5", commanding the pocket and picking apart defenses with precision passing and cerebral play rather than mobility. But when looking across the league's landscape today, it's clear that this model has become antiquated. Among starting quarterbacks who entered the league since 2010, 45% were 6'2" or shorter, and 26% weighed less than 215 pounds during the pre-draft stage. These players still possess the traditional ability to dissect defenses from the pocket, but with a modern twist. They evade pressure, extend plays, and exploit the open space that NFL defenses give them. Take two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, who's 6'2" and reportedly plays at around 205 pounds, or the 2024-25 Super Bowl winning quarterback Jalen Hurts, who stands at only 6'1", or Russell Wilson, who cemented his legacy in the 2010s as a champion and future Hall of Famer at just 5'11". And if you need more proof that size is no longer a deal breaker for quarterback evaluations, look no further than recent number 1 overall picks like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, and Caleb Williams, each standing 6'1" or shorter. While the physical requirements of the position are changing, big-bodied quarterbacks are far from extinct. Players like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Cam Newton have all thrived at 6'5" and 230-plus pounds. But what sets them apart isn't just their size, it's how they blend it with their elite athleticism and dynamic skill sets. No matter the build, the modern quarterback must bring adaptability to the position or risk this new era leaving them behind. At some point growing up, you probably picked up a football. Maybe your fingers slotted perfectly into the laces and you launched a beautiful spiral. Or maybe you realized in that sink or swim moment that your Whopper Jr.-sized hands weren't made to grip the ball firmly and that quarterback wouldn't be in the cards for you. While this might filter out a large portion of the population from ever playing the position, determining who amongst the best college quarterbacks will have the arm strength to thrive at the NFL level is a whole different challenge. You'll often hear draft analysts rave about a quarterback's rocket arm or conversely raise red flags about their small hands. But does a QB actually need a specific arm or hand size to cut it in the modern NFL? Since 2010, 28% of starting quarterbacks entered the league with hands measuring 10 inches or larger, while 26% measured between 9.25 and 9.5 inches. The takeaway: there's no magic number when it comes to hand size. Even quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Jared Goff, whose 9-inch hands are well below average by NFL standards, have starred in the league. But the pool of quarterbacks with less than 9-inch hands is shallow. Only 3 quarterbacks since the 2010 draft class have started more than 5 NFL games with sub-9-inch hands: Kenny Pickett, Taysom Hill, and Brandon Allen. None of those players have carved out a long-term starting role. While the hand size data is inconclusive, arm length shows a clearer trend. 54% of the starting quarterbacks evaluated had arms measuring 32 inches or longer. Players with smaller hands like Jared Goff have compensated with big arms to generate their throwing power. 5 quarterbacks that have entered the league since 2010 have made an All-Pro team. All had arms measuring over 33 inches, suggesting that a longer wingspan is a common theme amongst the league's highest upside passers. Still, just like with height and weight, there are always exceptions. Brock Purdy and Kyler Murray, for example, owners of 2 of the shortest arms among starters in the league, have both proven they can produce at a high level, even if arm strength isn't a defining trait for either of them. Tom Brady's sluggish pace in the 40-yard dash once symbolized how little speed mattered at quarterback. But today, mobility is a central component of the modern position, with the league's best quarterbacks consistently turning broken plays into highlights using their legs. Surprisingly, among starting quarterbacks who entered the league since 2010, there's little difference in average QBR between the fastest and slowest 40-yard dash groups, suggesting that elite straight-line speed is less important than functional mobility at the position. This is best demonstrated by perhaps the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who are both masters at evading pressure despite modest 40 times. However, a certain level of speed may be necessary to reach modern superstardom. No quarterback since the 2010 draft who ran slower than 4.9 seconds in the 40 has earned an All-Pro nod. Players like Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton have carved out long and successful careers, but never reached the league's elite tier. If there's a gem of a speed measurement in the pre-draft process, it's the 10-yard split. Buried beneath the headlines of 40 times, the 10-yard split captures a quarterback's initial acceleration and burst, elements that better indicate a player's game speed. 55% of starting quarterbacks recorded 10-yard splits under 1.64 seconds, with a noticeable uptick in average QBR amongst this group. Not a single All-Pro, Offensive Player of the Year, or MVP-winning quarterback that's entered the league since 2010 has had a 10-yard split slower than 1.64 seconds. Take Patrick Mahomes yet again. While his 40 was underwhelming at 4.8 seconds, his 1.59 10-yard split has proven to be the far more important measurement. He might not dust defenders in a dead sprint, but he makes enough plays in the running game with his short area burst. Contrast that with, say, Daniel Jones, who boasts deceptive open field speed, but lacks that same acceleration, paying the price with a high 9.1% sack rate over the course of his career. So next time draft season rolls around and your team's potential QB of the future is sprinting down the track, skip the stopwatch at 40 yards and focus on the first 10. That's where the real NFL success stories tend to begin. Lastly, we have the key tests of athleticism: the vertical jump, broad jump, and three-cone drill. You're probably familiar with the vertical jump. There are few better indicators for an athlete's explosiveness and power than their ability to jump really, really high. But when it comes to quarterback success, the vertical jump isn't a key separator. While 27% of starting quarterbacks had verticals of 34 inches or greater, 28% had verticals under 30 inches, with only a negligible difference in average QBR between the groups. However, like the 40-yard dash, there does appear to be an athletic threshold to future greatness, as no quarterbacks since the 2010 draft have made an all-pro team with a vertical under 30 inches. The far more significant leaping ability for quarterbacks is the broad jump. This drill captures horizontal power, the kind of force that translates into throwing strength and balance inside collapsing pockets. Since the 2010 draft, 73% of starting quarterbacks have broad jumped 110 inches or more. There's also a significant drop-off in average QBR for quarterbacks that fall beneath the 110-inch threshold. In hindsight, it was a bad sign that former top 3 picks like Jameis Winston and Sam Darnold tested poorly in this drill, as neither have lived up to their promise in the pros. Then there's the three-cone drill, which measures agility and change of direction speed, another critical trait for escapability in the pocket. Like the broad jump, the data here is also significant. 62% of starting quarterbacks and 71% of Pro Bowl appearances were by quarterbacks who completed the three-cone drill in 7.1 seconds or less. While often overlooked outside of scouting circles, it's clear that the broad jump and three-cone drills capture a subtle form of athleticism that plays a critical role in NFL success. So what do these findings tell us about where the quarterback position is headed? It's clear that traditional size markers like height and weight aren't the gatekeepers that they used to be, with the league embracing a wider variety of signal callers than ever before. But some old adages like being a big-arm gunslinger still hold up to this day. The waters are a bit murkier when it comes to athleticism, but if you look closely enough, it becomes clear which movement traits truly matter. Which makes it ironic that athletic testing has become a dying art form for quarterbacks during the pre-draft process. Not a single first-round QB in the 2023 or 2024 drafts participated in the Combine's athletic testing drills. As the pre-draft process for quarterbacks becomes more brand-conscious and tightly controlled, scouts will rely even further on game tape to identify key traits. And thus, just as over a decade's worth of data begins to show a blueprint for the modern NFL quarterback, it's becoming harder than ever to actually measure against that template. So for the teams that can crack this unsolvable code, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow awaits.